Okay, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about Nella stretta morsa del ragno, which might be Italian for in the tight grip of the spider. Okay, so this is going to be a longer video because this is a film by Antonio Margheriti, also known as Anthony Dawson, because he is an Italian director that made the pseudonym of an American or English sounding director so that his films would be more accepted by English and American audiences, as was how things went at the time. Antonio Margheriti, I think he directed something like 50 films, and he started back in 1960. He started with this, Spacemen. And if I'm not mistaken, that's actually the Italian title, Spacemen. I think the American title was Assignment Outer Space. So anyway, let's see. I read that he was really into sci-fi and wanted to make a sci-fi movie, so he made this movie first. It's not very good in my opinion. I don't think anyone really thinks it's that good. It's basically, it doesn't make sense. It's about a group of people who are in outer space, including a reporter who kind of gets in the way, but he's also the main character. But he kind of gets in the way of the astronauts. And then the astronauts are trying to, they like halfway through the movie they realize that there's a spaceship that's on a collision course with Earth, and according to them, the Earth is in danger of being completely destroyed if this spaceship crashes on it, which doesn't really make any sense. But anyway, that's the plot. It's not that interesting. Somewhat noteworthy for having an African-American actor in it who is not a servant or anything like that. He's a hero, actually. He's not the main guy, but he's one of the biggest parts in the whole thing. I only point this out, really, because I see a lot of, well, not a lot, but sometimes if you watch certain documentaries about movies in the 80s, they talk about how black characters are only token characters, or they're either not important or they are playing servant roles. And this is like 1960, I think. And that's not what was happening. Of course, it's not African American, it's African Italian. He also has blonde hair in the movie. I don't know if that's how that actor normally had his hair, or if it was like trying to make it seem futuristic. Not sure. But I think some people could appreciate the rarity of having an African-American character playing a heroic role in an early 60s film. So anyway, did I say African-American again? I should say African-Italian. Okay, second film. We've got Il Pianeta degli Umoni Spetti. The planet, I forget what that means. But anyway, this was another space movie. Basically a better version of the first one. It's not supposed to be the same plot or anything, but it's similar. This time there's an alien planet that's on a collision course with Earth, and the people have to stop it. This one is noteworthy for having Claude Rains in it. Claude Rains played the Invisible Man in the Universal classic monster movie, The Invisible Man. That was in 1932 or 3, and this is all the way in 1961. So Claude Rains been going for decades at this point. He was also in Phantom of the Opera as the Phantom, and many other like big Hollywood movies. And here he plays a crazy old man scientist who basically figures out how to save the Earth. These two movies aren't really that great, although Claude Rains is pretty funny in it. Odd for Claude Rains to be the comic relief. At least I think it's odd. But he does some maniacal laughter that he also did in The Invisible Man, so I like that. All right, next movie. I actually love this one. This is, I'm not going to read the Italian for all of them, but this is The Archer of the 1001 Nights. This is an Arabian Nights influenced adventure film complete with 3 genies, fire monsters, and magic carpet rides, and also magical arrows. The American release was The Golden Arrow. That was the title. And I thought it was so fun. Luckily, on YouTube, there is a beautifully restored version for free. And it's just got wonderful magic, fun for the whole family, looks great, good dubbing. 1962, I think. And basically this guy has to say, like, you know, he's the rightful heir to the kingdom, and, you know, the person in charge is not great. He has to rescue and fall in love with the princess. It's like a classic family story. It's fun, really fun. I like this one a lot. If I'm going to rate all these, I would say that Spacemen was a 4 out of 10. This one's a 5 out of 10. This one I'd give a 9 out of 10. Like, it really couldn't have been much better for the type of movie it was. Maybe the special effects could have been a little bit better, but it was the early 60s. And it was like Italy in the early 60s, so there probably wasn't a ton of money behind this. It's not like it's a Hollywood blockbuster. But anyway, I definitely recommend this if you like fantasy adventure movies. Okay, after that, he did what a lot of Italian directors were doing in the 60s, a Roman movie. This one's called... I think that's Italian for The Fall of Rome. Pretty sure. This one was okay. I gave this one a 6 out of 10. This one, we have a Christian main character, but I didn't love it because the main character jumps ship a few times. He's defending Rome, and then Rome is like anti-Christian, and then he goes and allies with these barbarians against Rome, and then the Romans realize how powerful he is, and so they like basically ask him to come back and fight for them again, and he does, and then he has to fight against the barbarians who helped him. So basically betrays the barbarians and then is lauded as a hero. I don't really like that. Not that much in the way of special effects, although I think there was a lot of horse training, which I do respect when they have lots of horses in a movie, and they have the horses do what they want them to do. All right, that's The Fall of Rome. So we have Antonio Margheriti's got sci-fi, Arabian adventure, Roman adventure. And then he does his first horror film. Now this one is called The Virgin of Nuremberg. Nuremberg is in Germany, so this is set in Germany. The English release title was Horror Castle. It does take place in a castle, so I guess that makes sense. This one was very cool. It's in color. It's very much in the Hammer style, but it was done in 1963, and it's probably the most violent movie to come out of Europe that I have seen up to this point. In fact, it's one of the most violent movies I've seen in any genre from 1963 or before, not counting, of course, Blood Feast, which also came out in 1963. But Blood Feast is like total disgusting gore, and which was way ahead of its time, and so Herschel Gordon Lewis gets credit for that. But this was way ahead of its time too. Right in the beginning, you see a corpse in a torture device with its eyes poked out, and you see the bloody holes where the eyes were. That's like a big deal for 1963. There was other things too, and to be honest, I think I watched 17 Antonio Margheriti movies in the past couple of weeks, and some of them are starting to blur together, which unfortunately just shows you how my memory is going. But I forget some of the other details, but I do remember that Christopher Lee is in this movie, not as a lead, but as a supporting role. He did a big, long string of European films in the 60s after getting noticed for being a good monster actor in the late 50s because he played Frankenstein, Dracula, and the Mummy for those Hammer films. And none of those, even Dracula, none of those roles had much speaking. In fact, the Mummy and Frankenstein had no speaking. And Dracula, he didn't speak that much as Dracula. I don't know why they did that to him. I think at the time they didn't really realize how good of an actor he was. But anyway, he did a bunch of these European films. I don't know the true reason why, but I imagine he was trying to get larger roles. And since he was a known face at that point, he was able to get these roles outside of England before he was able to get some larger English roles. Anyway, this one was really good. I give it an 8 out of 10. I didn't even say what it was about. Basically, this woman moves into a castle with her new husband. Her husband's ancestor was like an executioner and a torturer. And now someone with a hooded robe is coming and killing people and torturing them and using old medieval torture devices on them. And we're trying to find out who it is. Not quite a giallo. Gialli didn't really exist in film yet. In fact, the first giallo was the same year, 1963. I think that was called The Girl Who Knew Too Much, at least the English title. Anyway, there's a heavy element of mystery in this movie. Not quite a giallo, but it was a good one. Okay, after that, then he did what seems to be his most popular movie in today's audiences, Danse Macabre, which means Dance of Death. Danse Macabre or Danse Macabre is a French saying. I was looking and I saw a woodcut print that was made in 1493 with the title Danse Macabre by a German artist, Michael something. Anyway, this film, very interesting. It was black and white, which is weird because the previous horror film was color. And by 1964, there were not a lot of black and white horror films, especially gothic horror films, which this is. Very interesting, fairly interesting premise, I should say. It's not totally unique. It starts out, well, let's see. Yeah, I'll tell you about it. Okay, it starts out with Edgar Allan Poe in a pub telling a story, and this other guy comes in who's trying to interview Edgar Allan Poe, and a third guy challenges or bets that this journalist wouldn't be able to stay a full night in a nearby castle that the guy owns. And basically, the journalist is broke, so they bet money on it, and the rest of the movie is the guy trying to survive in the castle. By the way, this is called Castle of Blood in the United States. So, Edgar Allan Poe is not really in the movie other than at the beginning and then again at the very end. But it's mainly about this guy and he's trying to survive. Now, I will tell you, this movie was remade in 1971 under the title In the Tight Grip of the Spider. And that's the movie that we're really focusing on today. So, I would give this one an 8 out of 10. It was unique, but also, well, let's just keep it there for now, okay? And we'll get into spoilers later because the remake, which we're going to talk more about, has literally the same exact story. There's almost no difference at all. It is a very loyal remake, and that's because it had the same writers and the same director. They actually remade it because this one didn't do well, and Antonio Margheriti said he thought it didn't do well because it was in black and white, and all the other films at the time were really in color. And he thought that the black and white made audiences stay away. So he remade it in color, and really the only purpose of the remake is to have a color version of the same film. This version starred Barbara Steele as one of the inhabitants of the castle, Elizabeth. And I'm not going to say anything more about the plot, but I will say, and I talked a little bit about Barbara Steele on the last video, because she was in some of Ricardo Freitas' films, and she was very good in this, and I believe she got to dub her own lines, and so after watching this, I respect her more, because I think I was a little bit harsh on Barbara Steele in the last video. All right, let's move on. Oh, by the way, I'm only showing you the slides for films that I watched. There are even more Antonio Margheriti films that I didn't watch, including one which was basically a rip-off of Mondo Cane, and I don't like Mondo Cane, so I wasn't going to watch a rip-off of it. Anyway, I think that was right before Danse Macabre. This one is Anthar the Invincible. This is basically, I think this one was another Arabian adventure film, except there's no fantasy element. So it's basically just like a sword, horse and sword. I'm not going to call it sword and sandal because I don't think they're wearing sandals. I think they're wearing boots in this movie. But it's basically an Arabian adventure movie. Very similar plot to the other one, except with no fantasy elements. Anthar is trying to take his rightful place as the ruler of Damascus. I think they're in Damascus in this movie, which today I think is part of Syria. I don't think it was called Syria in medieval times, or whatever times you would refer to this time period as. Okay, so that's that one. That one was okay. I would give this one 6 out of 10. Okay, then we have Ursus, the Terror of the Kyrgyz. Oh, I forgot to mention. This one, in the United States, was marketed as Anthar being a son of Hercules. A whole bunch of movies not related to Hercules were marketed as Sons of Hercules. I think they went, in America, straight to TV to a little series called The Sons of Hercules, and they played the same song at the beginning of each movie. And so they said that Anthar was a son of Hercules, which of course makes no sense because Hercules was not in the Middle East. Okay, speaking of non-Hercules characters, here's one called Ursus, the Terror of the Kyrgyz. Now, I think we talked about Maciste in the last video. Maciste was an Italian hero that showed up because that returned to cinema because Hercules became very popular in the late 50s, early 60s. Well, that's where this one came from, Sons of Hercules. And in this one, it's about a character named Ursus, who is, in this case, I think Ursus showed up kind of like Maciste, like in all these different locations. But in this one, it takes place in the time of the Mongolian Empire in what is now Kyrgyzstan, if I'm saying that correctly. Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan was not called that at the time. It was part of the Mongolian Empire, if I looked up my history correct. And Ursus is the hero who has like not quite superhuman strength, but like stronger than almost anyone else. Let's see. This was played by Reg Park. And if I'm not getting my strongmen mixed up, Reg Park was a major influence to Arnold Schwarzenegger, who probably everyone knows who that is. So Reg Park was a British bodybuilder who was in a few movies, a few Hercules movies. And in this one, when this was released in the United States, it was released as a Hercules movie. They call him Hercules in the English version, even though that makes no sense because Hercules, it's not the right time period, not even close to being the right time period for Hercules, nor is it the right geographical location because Hercules was not in Central Asia or wherever Kyrgyzstan is. So yeah, no. But this one was, and there were werewolves in this movie and a witch. They weren't really werewolves, but this witch turned people into like these beastly monster guys. She actually turns Ursus into one at one point, but it doesn't last forever. It's just like a temporary spell. Could have been cooler considering we had a witch and werewolf type things in it. But I don't know, it was all right. 7 out of 10 just because it's better than the average Hercules knockoff. Okay. Then we had the Giants of Rome. At this point, I was getting a little bit fatigued with the Roman and Roman type knockoff movies that Antonio Margheriti was doing. His horror films were much better. This one is literally just a group of Romans during the time of Julius Caesar, and they have to fight some druids, and the druids have a big secret weapon, and it's a catapult. So I guess this is at the time where like catapults were a brand new thing. I guess that's the point. Like the whole big thing about it was that the druids had a catapult, and then the Romans dismantled it. Funny thing about this movie is it got re-released on DVD format in a package of Christian films, or at least films that the distributor was saying were Christian films. This film doesn't have any Christians in it. It takes place before Christians existed, and on the DVD version, which is the version that's out there on Tubi, there's a voiceover at the beginning saying, Jesus was born in the time of the Romans. This is one of their stories, or something like that. But it's a pre-Christian story. I give it a 6 out of 10 because there were some good fight battle scenes with horses and stuff like that. I can't really give anything less than a 6 out of 10 when they put up that much effort into it and like get a coherent like product. But it's not that exciting. All right, so that's that one, The Giants of Rome. Not to be confused with The Giants of Thessaly by Riccardo Freda. All right, then we get another horror movie. This one is another fairly popular Antonio Margheriti movie. This is The Long Hair of Death. And they actually called it that for the American release. They didn't give it some weird castle-related name. This one was very good. I give this one an 8 out of 10. This one is about, at the beginning of it, a witch is being burned. She puts a curse on the town before she dies. And she has 2 daughters. One of her older daughter, played by Barbara Steele, is also killed, and her younger daughter is spared. Then, the guy who kills them, his son, force marries the daughter, and he is a human piece of garbage. If you like movies where if you really want to hate the bad guy, this one's for you. Anyway, Barbara Steele's character comes back from the dead as a decayed corpse with worms all up in her face and everything like that. And then she like becomes pretty again. And she seduces the guy who has married her sister so that she can expose him as like a piece of garbage, adulterer, basically a rapist. He basically rapes this other girl because she doesn't want to be with him and marries her. All that comes with that. So this one was really good. It's kind of funny. This guy doesn't recognize her. The sister doesn't recognize her either. But like the dad recognized her. So that seems like a little bit of a hole there. But yeah, basically, guy falls in love with a zombie witch ghost. I'm not sure exactly what you would call her. Kind of a zombie, really. I think she physically came back from the dead. I guess that would make her a zombie, except like all the decay went away. It's kind of like a witch zombie. Anyway, this one was really good. I would recommend this one. You can stream this for free on various platforms legally. Same with Dance Macabre. All right, what else did Margheriti do? All right, then he did 4 more sci-fi films in a row. Filmed them all at the same time. It's known as the Gamma 1 quadrilogy because it partially takes place on a space station that was called Gamma 1. In this first one, it was called The Criminals of the Galaxy, and basically, aliens came to Earth and are, what are they doing? Kidnapping, shrinking. Oh my gosh, how could I forget? They are shrinking people and then bringing them back to full size And after that process is done, they have control over the people. Now, if you like bad movies, this is a really fun bad movie. I give it a 6 out of 10.